Welcome back to Paranormal Perspective. I'm John Lordan, and joining me as always is...
Christy Arnhart.
This is the show where Christy does some research into a paranormal or paranormal adjacent topic, presents the information to not only me, but a live studio audience that's watching us. We put a question to them, usually around, is it paranormal or not? We get their feedback. They choose who wins the conversation for the day. Christy, what is the topic for today, and what's the question that we're putting to the audience?
Well, today we'll be taking a look at the Big Muddy Monster of Murphysboro, Illinois. Now, my question to the audience is, do you think the Big Muddy Monster is real?
Okay, is the Muddy Monster real? A muddy monster? I don't know that I've heard.
Muddy monster.
I've heard of a Mothman. We've heard of skunky smelling apes.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard of all kinds of stuff, but Muddy Monster kind of has my imagination going. Like there was a Batman villain that was mud. It was like made out of mud. Clayface, right?
Clayface, yeah.
I believe so.
And there was the Scooby-Doo villain. Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's hear about it.
Now, don't get confused here. The Big Muddy Monster has been compared, and when you go to websites, you're going to see Bigfoot, albino Bigfoot. I think he's a skunk ape.
Oh, you do? Wow. I hit it right from the start. It's like we have a psychic connection. You think this is a skunk ape. Okay. All right.
Oh, yeah. Me and Dirty Ape were talking about this.
Okay.
It's awesome. Now, this took place during 2 weeks in 1973. The sightings have continued ever since then. But the most sightings happened and first took place in 73. And we don't have any pictures of the monster, but we do have the entire police file that they have put online. So I'll be sure and put a link to that in the box so you guys can look at it when we're done, because seriously, it's scans of everything, whole police file, and there's all kinds of people who filed reports.
Okay.
So the first one took place on June 25th, 1973. And that report is actually called the Unknown Creature Police Report. So a young couple named Randy Needham and Judy Johnson were parking at midnight at the foot of 23rd Street in Riverside Park, which looks out over the Big Muddy River. It's near a boat ramp. It's isolated. They knew they could go and make out without getting caught, which was key because Judy's dad had forbidden her from seeing Randy at all. So they weren't supposed to be there.
Okay.
So while they're making out, they're listening to the radio. They're trying to decide when exactly they're going to leave because it's like midnight now, when suddenly they hear this piercing roar that Randy said it sounded like an eagle shrieking into a microphone. And it was near the car. So he immediately turns off the radio. He starts looking around, trying to see it, and he hears another shriek. And when he turns the headlights on for the car, he sees a huge, stinky creature walking toward them. Well, naturally, he floored it and got out of there. So now they're trying to decide, what are we going to do? People need to know that there's some kind of creature down at the river, but if we go report this to the police, we're going to get caught.
What state is this?
Illinois.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine they have bears there. Fred? Fred, are there bears in Illinois? I know one of our viewers is in that area. Just curious.
I don't know if there is or not.
Okay. All right.
But, and you'll see people around this area know the wildlife, and it wasn't, the sound and the look wasn't fitting the description of anything that they knew. So I'm going to call poo-poo on your bear right now.
Well, I don't know. The audience is saying bears are everywhere. And one of them is actually even theorizing further than that, saying maybe it's a bear with a bad haircut.
That poor bear.
It could be.
Who did that to him?
Okay. As a matter of fact, Fred has answered back. He says, yes, there are bears. I've heard that they pretend to play football.
love Fred.
Thank you, Fred. We needed that in this topic. Things were getting too
We
scary.
did.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Well, the two lovebirds decided it was more important to report it to the police. So that's exactly where they went. They went straight there, and their account described the beast as an oversized gorilla, which was estimated to be almost 8 foot tall, with matted, mud-streaked white hair, and it walked on 2 legs.
Oh, that's an interesting
Now,
description in terms of mud-streaked white hair.
mhm.
Just because, like, if you're looking at something like that, I mean, I guess you could assume it's mud, but how do you know that it's mud versus that it has patches of brown hair and patches of white hair? Or
I would argue that you would know. Between the stink of the river that it carries around and that awful mud, yeah, I think you'd tell the difference.
yeah, and that's kind of interesting too. I don't know of many animals that just kind of, like, if they did get a whole bunch of mud on them or something, would just leave it. Yeah, that's kind of a curious. Like, I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of footage of, like, muddy bears in general. I've seen bears in water.
Mm-mm.
I've seen all kinds of stuff around that. Bears in the
Mm-hmm.
wild, bears in someone's backyard. But yeah, that's an interesting thing. Okay.
Yeah. And you would think with it being down by the river, it would have washed itself off, but he chose not to. He or she chose not to.
Okay.
Now,
Or
the
they.
officers
It could be
that
they
took
as
their
well.
report,
Mhm.
they didn't want to believe that anything like that was going on, but they knew the families. They knew that, they were nice, reliable families, and they knew the kind of trouble this girl was going to be in for seeing Randy. So they were like, well, it'd take a lot to get them up here. So they decide, okay, what we're going to do is we are going to go out and look for this thing. So 2 patrolmen went out, found the spot where the kids were sitting at, and they found a lot of odd, deep tracks that were 10 to 12 inches long and about 3 inches wide.
Mm.
Now, to give you an idea of that kind of scale, this is one of my husband's shoes. I
It's
can't even
giant.
get the whole shoe in here. Look at that.
He's a tall guy. Yeah, he's taller than me. So yeah, that's a giant shoe.
Now, I will admit, these are 13 and a half extra wide, but
Mm-hmm.
14 inches is about the size of that foot. So yeah, think about this. Think about that coming at you.
Okay.
Boom.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be good. As they're examining these footprints and trying to take pictures, the creature screams at them, and it's nearby. It scared the officers so badly. They took off running back to their car. One of them dropped his revolver. Didn't try to go back for it then.
Were they taking pictures of the footprints?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have those?
We do have pictures of some of the footprints, yes.
Okay, and those were taken by the police, these pictures here?
There you go. Yep. This does not look like a print to me.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting. Something definitely, and it's super muddy, it looks like. Like, this mud looks really, really wet, and it does look like something that had moved through it. But not what you would typically, like, especially for people drawing comparisons to Bigfoot and things like that. Yeah, I'm not seeing.
It's not what you expect. And
Right.
you would think if a foot come through there, there'd be toes. And
Maybe up here. Yeah, there's some detail that's being lost because of the lighting that's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
But it does look very slender. The movement almost looks more like a deer had run through here, and it's like in gallop or something, to make that movement. But, well, they definitely went looking for something, and they snapped a couple photos.
They did.
And
they were so terrified they ran back to the police station.
Yeah, and there is, to be fair, there's pages and pages of police reports here, so they're definitely taking it seriously.
Oh, yes. Yeah, they did. After they ran back to the police station, 2 hours later, they returned with 2 other officers so that they could all search the area. They found even more tracks this time. But every time they would get into looking, either something sounded like it was running through the creek or the river coming toward them, or they kept hearing that same scream over and over again. And it wasn't a scream that they could fix. They named off animals. They're like, it's none of these. This is what we've got in the area. So it took them the rest of the night. But they finally got this place searched and they never found anything. Now, over the next couple of weeks, they get nothing but calls from people. And it's not during the day, of course, it's at night. One of the better known ones, there was a kid in the backyard catching fireflies to put in a jar. And he saw the beast standing in the woods behind the house and went in and told his mother about it. Well, at the same time, their next door neighbor's daughter and her boyfriend were sitting on the back porch, and they saw the creature walk through their yard too. So they called the police. That's another police report that they put down.
Do you know if the press spoke about this at all at the time? Like, was this in the newspapers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, it's mostly limited to Murphysboro, Illinois, but it does get spread out into some other papers, because if you look through the police file, there are letters from people all over the world asking for information about this creature. Elementary schools, people in South Africa. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I know it got picked up somewhere, but most of it, it's in Murphysboro. And one thing that these people did add to the description is that the beast had glowing red eyes. And that's why a lot of people want to say that this is an albino Bigfoot. I don't think that it is. I think it's a skunk ape.
I don't know why that always has to come up in these things. In so many of these stories, the glowing red eyes come in. I think Mothman also has glowing red eyes, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of animals reflect red.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but they do. So
some do have red eyes. I mean, some do have red eyes for sure. But yeah, glowing.
And
is
you're scared. You're confronted with something that you don't know what it is. So.
Yeah. None of these monsters.
Down, though, I'd say it's a skunk ape.
Yeah. None of these monsters ever have a glowing red nose.
No, everybody would know who that was.
Right.
And everyone would want to pet him.
Yeah.
So again, they call the police. This time the police comes in with a little posse and a scent dog. The scent dog found a trail of black slime that it followed and popped on for a while. They followed it. Finally, it ends up in somebody's barn on their property. Now, as the officers are trying to secure the area, because the dog pointed to the barn and took off. He didn't want any part of what was going on. He was scared to death. And it's a German Shepherd, and he's a trained scent dog, so you wouldn't expect that to happen.
Okay.
But unfortunately, by the time they got into the barn, the creature had already left through one of the other doors and left another trail of slime that they weren't able to really connect to anything. So, they went through a time of all of the people in town are armed to the teeth and made their own posses. And they're driving around killing anything that moves. So I'm sure that was a fun time for everybody.
Well, if anyone would have actually killed something that they thought this was, I'm sure that would have been publicized. Like, oh, we found it, we got it, and it was actually a bear, or it was actually this or that. So, okay.
Oh, yeah, no, and you can't find anything like that. This case file is still open today because they still get sightings.
Wow.
They even have a huge statue. It's 8 inches tall and weighs nearly 800 pounds.
8 feet tall.
Of the Muddy Monster. Yeah.
Wow.
Of the Muddy Monster. And they just put that up at the end of 2023, and they're like, oh my gosh, we're going to get even more sightings now that the statue's up. But they have festivals.
I was going to say,
they sell all kinds of Muddy Monster stuff there.
I was just going to it. They're going full Mothman. So it's becoming a tourist destination. You can go there. There's some guy that owns a store there that has all the memorabilia and the articles, and he talks to everyone. I mean, I could see myself in terms of retirement kind of taking on those locations and hey, I'm going to go to this festival, go to that festival, learn about this kind of thing. It seems kind of fun in a way. It's too bad that they didn't. Well, actually, I did see in the police file, maybe they actually had a sketch artist work with one of the people that saw it, because there's these amazing drawings here. Look at that one.
That looks like somebody I know.
Isn't that your husband, Christy? Isn't that John?
If Karis drew it, it might be, yeah.
How did this wind up in the file? I don't know. This is a witness, like a witness drew this?
Yes. All of the pictures are from witnesses.
Well, let's look at the next one.
This one, the people who saw the skunk ape, I'm going to call it, in their backyard, the couple, they said it had a spade-shaped head.
Interesting. Okay.
Maybe he just coiffed his hair. I don't know.
Hey, you know what? This drawing solved it. This is 100% the Grinch that stole Christmas right here.
It does look like the Grinch.
The shape of his head, his shoulders, his little stomach, pooge kind of sticking out a little bit. Yeah, it's the Grinch. Whoa, hello.
Now see.
Someone had some skill. Yeah, someone had some skills on that one. That might have been done by a forensic artist. Wow.
Yeah. They do. This is something that has carried on and carries on till today. So if you want the chance to see a skunk ape or an albino Bigfoot, as some believe, go to Murphysboro, Illinois, south end of the state.
Bring your wallet, because you're going to buy a t-shirt, you're going to get some tchotchke, a little statue.
You're going to have to. I mean, you can't just go and not do it.
No. So put that on your maps, everyone. Murphysboro, that's where you want to go. I feel almost like I cheated you, Christy, because I put the poll up before we showed those photos or the drawings, and I'm sure if they would have seen those drawings before we put the poll up, that might have skewed everything in a different direction. So I don't know that we can trust these results as strongly as I would like to, but.
Not to mention, did you hear everything that Dirty Ape had to say about this? He swears he knows this guy. It's another cousin.
For anyone watching this on playback who doesn't know what Dirty Ape is, you got to come to the Secret Studios. Come around a holiday.
That damn Dirty Ape is incredible.
You will get to know the Dirty Ape. Some people love him, some people hate him. Okay, we put it to the audience. Is the muddy monster real? 23% said yes, which means 77% said maybe she should be cutting up a rug to make her costume, her mud monster costume. Fake. Honestly, this one is super interesting to me because there is so much police activity around it, because there's documentation of that. I think something that honestly might have helped skew them, and I think even skewed you in terms of looking at the information, is the photos of the print. Like, they're just, we have seen Bigfoot prints that are way more convincing than these. You know, like this looks like you could have had a police officer that was out there that took a stick and whacked it in the mud and then took a picture of the print that he left. Like this, it's unfortunate. It actually does a disservice to the rest of the police file, I think, with these photos in there. And maybe one or two of those drawings. But
well, and it's like Victor says, there's no compelling footage. And you're right. Nobody has any pictures. The thing that trumped me was all of these, police officers.
Yeah.
That cracks me up. Every time they hear it, they just run and hide.
Well,
and then they'd slowly come back out.
Yeah, but think about the psychological aspects to this too. Like, they hear about this story from people that they know in their community that they trust wouldn't be lying because of whatever, her parents, blah, 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 any of that. But they've built this story up inside of them of like, okay, these kids aren't lying to us. And we're going out in the dark looking for an 8-foot tall monster that maybe is a bear. Like maybe if they're even trying to apply that, hey, we're trying to chase something down that could be a bear. You hear a roar of any kind, yeah, I'm booking. I'm turning around and I'm going the other way. I don't care how armed I am. I don't care how many people are there with me. Like just the elements of where you're going to be at mentally with the story that you've heard at that point. I totally get that.
Oh yeah, anytime, whether you're used to the woods or wherever you're at, usually you know what the animals sound like, but when you hear something and you can't place it, it gets scary right away.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, you didn't win this one, but I'm still putting it in my personal category of if I'm ever in that area and I can go through and listen to someone tell that story again or see some compelling evidence or information about it, I'd be up for it. Also, let me just put out there, if I ever happen to win some lottery and I'm given millions of dollars, I am
Hmm.
literally buying every trail cam that I can that is wireless and will send photos back to my home base from whatever forests I've staged all these things in, and I will
Yeah.
go forest by forest and discount Bigfoot until you guys finally believe it. And it's going to take a lot of trail cams. That's what I'm saying. It's going to take a
It
lot
would
of,
take a lot of trail
yeah,
cams.
yeah.
And please don't get the ones that are crap. I mean, we need some high quality pictures here. I need to prove that it's not my husband tramping around out there in the woods somewhere.
Yeah, well, that shoe didn't leave that print, that's for sure. Uh,
No.
yeah. Also, we have a shout out from Carrie Ann saying Christy Arnhart rocks, which I agree. I agree.
Why, thank you, Carrie Ann.
Thank you so much, Christy, for your work on today's episode. Thank you guys for joining us, and please join us again. Until then, we'll see you on the other side.